All right. Thank you so much for attending. Welcome to the Workplace ESOL Capacity Building Workshop Series for instructors and curriculum designers. Today is part 1 of balancing student and company needs. This workshop series is presented by English for New Bostonians, and it's funded by the Commonwealth Corporation. Upcoming workshops. We have a third workshop in our series, and it's called Integrating Technology and Digital Literacy. This workshop is May 20th and 27th, and it's going to be all about teaching classes online, strategies for integrating digital literacy into lessons, as well as different online resources. You can register here or at the workshop website. This is going to be available in a PDF. I'll also send you registration links. Now I know that May 27th may not work for some people, so I'm going to send a survey at the end of this workshop, and we're going to find out which works better for people, May 27th or June 3rd. So please keep an eye out for that survey so that you can let me know which day you prefer. Any questions so far?
Sarah, is there a class next Friday?
Yes, there is.
Oh, okay. I just want to make sure.
Here we go. Next slide. You were ahead of me. You're exactly where my thoughts were, Stacy. We're on the same mind wave. Yep, next Friday is part 2, May 13th. Next Friday, we're going to focus on meeting students' needs. Today, we're focusing on the company's needs, but we definitely are going to focus on student needs next Friday. And we're going to explore activities for multi-level classes. We're going to work on how to differentiate our lessons for illiterate students and different levels. And we're going to talk about creating participatory curriculum. When you get the survey after today's workshop, please fill it out and submit any suggestions or expectations that you want to have included in next Friday's workshop. Just to let you know, the reason I include illiterate students in here is that when I work with factories and other manufacturing companies, we usually find between 5 to 10% of the workers are illiterate in their native language. So I really want to highlight that when we're working on next week's workshop and talking about ways to identify them, ways to support them. Just it's a whole nother ballgame, as you know. Okay, today's agenda: introductions. We'll review the objectives of today. We're going to talk about balancing student and company needs through contextualized curriculum. We're going to talk about the needs of the company. And then I want us to practice creating lessons with authentic company documents, lessons on how to teach these documents. So we already did introductions, but I'd like to add one more thing. I would like to know what you like about working in adult ESOL education. So I'll start first, and I'm not going to try to take the easiest one. I know we all like a lot of the similar things, but I really enjoy when we have parties and I get to try food from all over the world. That's one of the things I really like. Who else would like to tell us what they like about working in adult ESOL education?
It's tremendously gratifying to open new doors to people who have been struggling and really needing it to make a difference in their lives, to have them come back and say, "Teacher, I talked to my daughter's teacher at the school in English for the first time." That's amazing. What an amazing experience. I have a lot more things, but I'll let other people take other things.
I like that the adults realize the benefit they'll get from this class. Sometimes it's hard to explain to teenagers what the benefit is of being able to speak English. You know, it's easier to look for jobs and all, but the adults really know, and they want to learn, and I like that attitude.
I really appreciate the wealth of knowledge and life experience that students bring. I always tell my students that some days I feel like I learn more than they do. So they always appreciate that I'm open to listening and learning from them.
I like in a workplace setting to learn more about what workplaces are like in the countries of the learners, and then also, share sort of what are working expectations and also workers' rights, and what they can safely ask their bosses for. In some cases, that's often, a big part of it is getting workers to advocate for themselves.
Definitely. That's a great point you brought up. Like, the work environment here is so different than what they're used to in their countries, where they don't even realize that they have a lot of these rights. And let's see, did anyone else? Stacy, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm a beginner at this, but I like teaching adults. I have taught children before, and I like the fact that they have maturity, they have experience, and they want to be there. So I find that to be refreshing and interesting. I just found out the other day, I don't know what we were talking about. Oh, we're talking about jobs and careers and things, that the custodians in the Dominican Republic carry guns. So I just thought that was really interesting, and told them that we don't do that. So anyways, yeah, I just like teaching adults and, somebody my age or a little older. It's just nice. And I like the civics of it because immigration law and things like that are my passion.
The Latin American thing, Stacy.
Mm-hmm. Great. And Louise, as an
Yeah.
adult ESOL educator, go ahead.
Absolutely. I think I'm going to just echo what someone else said before, but yeah, just the fact that they're very goal oriented, and they know what they want and why they're here. Similarly, I taught elementary and high school students in the past, and yeah, I just like the fact that students have clear goals, and they have a wealth of experience that they can share in the class. So it looks very different teaching adults and younger people. Thank you, Sarah.
Great. Thank you all so much for sharing. I purposely didn't mention any of those myself because there's so many times where I'm teaching my students and my heart just swells to the point where I just want to cry with happiness because of the things they tell us and when you see the difference you're making in their life. So, I'm glad that we all have such great experiences. And now we're going to go back to workplace education specifically. So I'll share my screen again. Okay, so the objectives for today. We're going to explore the issues that are unique to workplace ESOL. We're going to discuss strategies for meeting the needs of the company, but we also want to provide a positive learning environment for our employees. And we're going to engage with each other and share ideas and our experience with workplace lesson planning. Now, this is a time to tell me if there's anything else you want to make sure we include about balancing student and company needs in this workshop, but please remember that next week is going to focus on student needs more specifically. So, If there's anything else you think we should include today, please let me know. Anyone? Kathleen, is your hand up? Sure.
Yeah, I have a question.
Mhm.
Will this be based on an understanding that there's a lot of ongoing meetings with the employer or between the employer and the instructor, or?
Yeah, definitely. The whole planning evaluation team meetings and frequent contact, definitely. We'll definitely be touching on that. That is a great point. Does anyone else want to make sure we're covering anything in this lesson? All right, well, at any time, feel free to ask a question or let me know if there's something you want me to keep elaborating on. All right, let me make sure. Okay, first, let's look at company goals and student goals. So one of the reasons that I really love doing workplace ESOL is that so far at least, I've been working with companies that really want to help their employees improve their lives. And many times the goals of the company and the employees are aligned. They both want to improve quality of life. A lot of the companies want to promote from within. And for employees, more responsibility, promotions is better pay. But the company also has additional goals that are not related to the student's particular goals. For example, the company wants to improve customer service or reduce complaints. They need to reduce the amount of time that the supervisor has to spend just translating, and they need to reduce waste. As workplace ESOL educators, we need to keep in mind that the company is the client. And workplace ESOL classes are a very significant financial investment. These companies, they're paying wages to the employees to attend classes, either partial wages or the entire wages. And if the classes take place during the hours of work, they're also losing productivity. When you look at a Commonwealth Corporation Workplace Training Fund Program grant, the matching funds that are contributed by the company, that's the wages of the employees. And at the grants that I've made, I would say typically the company is paying between $70,000 to $100,000 for students to attend 2 or 3 ESOL classes for a total of 36 weeks. So these companies are wonderful because they know the value of workplace ESOL, but we have to remember that this is a really significant investment for them. Any questions so far? All right. Now, there are some challenges that you come across in workplace ESOL right from the start. One of the biggest challenges that we find is unrealistic expectations. You know, frequently you'll have an employer who says, well, you know, at the end of this class, they're all going to be speaking great English, right? And it's like, not really. You know, you've got a lot of people who've never even taken an English class before. So most of these companies, if they haven't done workplace ESOL before, they're used to company training, very prescribed, directly meets the company's needs. And most people don't know how hard it is to learn English as an adult. They just see their children picking up languages like that. So, you know, one of the biggest challenges we face is unrealistic expectations. And that's where, like Kathleen mentioned, this concept of having a planning and evaluation team is so important. For example, in the planning and evaluation team, your program director can make sure that they're always there to address issues around unrealistic goals that pop up throughout the program. As educators, we are student-centered, Like Kathleen mentioned about workers' rights, we're student advocates. We want to do the best we can for our students. Having the program director frequently meeting with the company, having a planning and evaluation team where everyone can get together and work through these issues is a really important way to support the instructor to make sure that these classes are meeting the needs of the company and the students. I think that instructor support is incredibly necessary for these classes. So, planning and evaluation teams are very important for supporting the instructor to meet the needs of the student. Any questions or comments so far? All right. Now, let's talk about contextualized curriculum. So last week's workshop was all about creating contextualized curriculum, balancing student and company needs. And, I was thinking about last week, and I wanted to clarify my suggestions for developing context curriculum. I want to address an important point that Sue brought up last week, where she was saying how much she appreciates that she has management who's very open to her teaching all sorts of functional vocabulary to her students. And what I wanted to say to start this discussion of balancing student and company needs is I want to clarify that I didn't mean that I wouldn't include teaching like the names of family members or how to describe people or colors. It's just that when I create curriculum, there is so much material for workplace ESOL specific that I don't create a specific lesson, like 1 or 2 hour lesson that's about family and describing family member characteristics. What I try to do is I try to contextualize the workplace curriculum. I try to incorporate that daily vocabulary that they need into the context of the workplace. So, I could use customer service. I could say, let's do a conversation with customer service at a restaurant. And the customer says, my son needs a napkin. My daughter is lactose intolerant. Or we can do a lesson about missing work. What are reasons to miss work? My grandmother is sick. I have to take my aunt to a doctor appointment. If I want to do like colors and clothing and characteristics, we could even do a safety lesson where like they have to practice calling the security and saying, hey, there's a person in the parking lot who's hassling our customers. And the security says, can you describe that person to me? So the reason I try to incorporate is one, I don't have time to create separate lessons. I've got so much workplace ESOL content. But two, these employees are getting conversation models that they can use at work, and they're learning the vocabulary they need for their daily lives. So I just wanted to clarify that from the last workshop because I want to make sure there isn't any confusion about that. Are there any questions? Does that make things a little bit clearer? All good? Okay, so let's move on. Okay, this is an example from the 1999 Workplace Education Guide produced by the Massachusetts Workplace Literacy Consortium. And for those of you who've been in this business a long time, you'll probably remember that Workplace ESOL used to be called Workplace Literacy. So anyhow, the consortium printed a really great guideline about how to set up a program and teach classes. I'm not going to read this to you. I'll let you read it yourself. But this was an example about how to meet the needs of the company. Okay, so the instructor says that this program enjoyed a good takeoff in student self-confidence and in the eyes of the manager. So she was trying to start out on the right foot in terms of the company seeing that their expectations were being met. How did she do that? You don't have to raise your hand. You can just go ahead and let us know.
Well, sounds like she knew what the company wanted, and then she took it, like, she brought it more to a student level, like a start, something, a way to start off with, very basic language skills, that hopefully, people in the company could hear if, maybe some of the workers started asking for things that they hadn't asked for before, something like that.
Yeah, good point. She basically met the company's needs early on, right? To demonstrate that they were meeting their needs. And then, as the term progressed, the prescriptive nature of the lessons changed and it became more student-centered. The students expressed themselves on issues underlying their communication at work. So, this instructor started by demonstrating to the management, yes, we are meeting your needs. And as they gained the trust and the relationship with the management, they moved into more student-centered work. So I thought this was a really great example of how to balance these two things. Would anyone like to make a comment or question?
I want to, Sarah, just to interject something here. How, in your experience, how open are, I know this may be on a case-by-case basis, but with people you've worked with, how open are they to tweak these lessons in the direction that students want, rather than being too prescriptive?
That's a great question, and I find that management is very open to working with the lessons to meet the needs of the students. So, we create a curriculum. We say these are the topics we're going to cover, and I find that management is usually very appreciative as long as their students are speaking English and as long as they see progress happening in the workplace. Because, I had management give me this whole document on workers' comp. And so not only did I teach them workers' comp, I also went into OSHA, and I'm sure that they had a lot of people reporting carpal tunnel after that lesson because that was a very common industry. That was a common injury. But, they wanted me to teach about their workers' comp program, and that's what happened. So I've never gotten any negative feedback from a company by teaching things that anyone who speaks English should know or would know in a company. Any other questions? Okay. Now, the next thing that I find to be very important and that really helps with balancing the needs of the company is communication with managers and supervisors. The Massachusetts Workplace Literacy Consortium says it's helpful to have regular outreach to supervisors. They suggest inviting the union or management representatives to attend classes. They suggest inviting them as guest speakers, which I love that idea, or just to observe. And they also advise talking to supervisors about ways they can reinforce specific lessons. So at this time, I would like you guys to suggest ideas for involving managers and supervisors in your classes. And you don't have to raise your hand, just go ahead.
For me, I have like I mentioned before, I stay around afterward and do my attendance and take notes and things like that. And it gives me a chance to talk with the various managers as they come and go and do their thing around the company. They usually pop their heads in and say hi, and we'll just make a little bit of conversation. Then I'll say, so what do you think about what the students are learning? Have you heard them speaking English anymore in the workplace? And we can have a one-on-one conversation, and they can give me ideas. At one point, I reached out to one of the managers at the restaurant and asked him if he could write me up a sample conversation or a few of them that would be had typically in the workplace, and he was delighted to do it. He wrote me 4 little conversations, and the students have been practicing them and actually are planning on saying them at our end of semester, end of year party that we've already planned on the 29th of June. And they're scared but excited. As far as inviting them into classes, while I have made it known, of course, that anybody's always welcome, the students, at least my students, shut down. When the managers are there, they're like, and afterwards they'll say to me in Spanish, oh my gosh, I was so embarrassed when they came in. I don't want to talk in front of them. And I'm like, no, but you have to. You have to show them that you're progressing, even if it's just a little. They're like, oh, but I'm going to make a mistake. And in that way, I'm so thankful that I can communicate with my students in Spanish, because not everybody has that connection. But they keep it pretty real with me and tell me how hard it is. And I get that. It's a lot of pressure, and they feel like they're going to make a stupid mistake, so they just stop participating. On the plus side, I am so spoiled with the places I work. I love the restaurant and Ox because they get it, and they'll come afterward. Ed popped in yesterday to see what was going on, and he popped into a bunch of silent students, but he had heard them outside the door before. And he told me, I didn't stay too long because I saw what was happening. So I went back outside the door and listened, and I loved what I heard. But sorry about that. He said, I want them to know that I'm present, but I realize that it makes them embarrassed and they stop talking. But if a boss or a manager doesn't realize it, that's hard.
That's a great point. Can you all think of any ways that we can prepare the students and the manager for these visits to try to make the comfort level? You know, what could we do to help the students feel more comfortable, and to have the managers, maybe have the right kind of presence to encourage the students? Do you have any ideas for that? Anyone in general, including Sue.
My students did their homework at lunch, and so the management saw them working on their English. So I didn't set that up. They just did that. And if anyone needed help, someone from the class was helping them.
Yeah, I've heard that from some of my managers too. They're like, these 2 students are so dedicated. They do their homework during break time, and I hear them talking and helping each other. So that definitely is a great way for managers to see what's going on. Any other suggestions for how to get managers involved or supervisors?
I was going to address the having a manager visiting the class unexpectedly. I haven't tried this with a workplace class, but in a program where people would drop in at any time, and I knew students would kind of be like, why are they here? We would talk about it at the beginning of the semester, and then we'd actually practice and appoint people when somebody walked through the door to say, hi, welcome to our class. And then somebody else say, oh, we're practicing vocabulary or something like that, just to sort of give the students a voice as soon as somebody came through the door.
That is such a good idea. Like all that prep, just the preparation. That's a great idea. Anyone else want to contribute?
I would say if you're going to have a structured time, you know, say the HR person was coming in to talk about, you know, a healthcare form or something like that, to have the learners have the form in advance and have their questions ready, depending on their level, of course. But so that they, you know, they sort of knew why the person was there. So it's always helpful to have questions on hand.
Yeah. I also invited our two bosses whenever I did a project. And the students would say, well, I don't want to talk in front of him. I said, yes, then you're going to be like me. I lived in Puerto Rico and I can't speak Spanish because I wouldn't try. So you have to try. So when they hear me speak Spanish, they know my Spanish is terrible.
I love how you personalize it. Exactly.
Yeah. I say, you don't want to be like me. You want to learn the English.
Mm-hmm.
So.
All right, these are great. Let's go ahead and move on. Oh, did someone have one more comment?
Yeah, I got a
Go
comment.
for it. Mm-hmm.
You know, back to the idea of having the supervisors have something that they can practice with the students. So we at a big company where there are a lot of different people involved in the program, and it wasn't easy just to kind of, you know, see them like as Sue was able to meet with people. So we started sending just a little, like, you know, email, but it sent it through text, kind of laid it out so that it could go through their texting system, because all the supervisors were on this texting system. And just kind of saying, like, very briefly what happened in class, and say, ask the students this. So it was a question that we had talked about in class and something that hopefully they could come up with an answer for when asked. But yeah, it was a way to reach, you know, try and reach more supervisors. I don't know how well it worked, but that's what we did.
That's great because you're giving them prompts. And by the way, I'm writing down a lot of these because I'm learning so much from everyone. Fantastic. Would anyone else like to share before we move on? Okay.
I would suggest that they bring food or bring chocolate.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I'm sorry, but I had a manager who was fantastic. He carried, it's amazing what you would do for a chocolate kiss.
Yep.
You're doing a good
You're
job.
so
you know?
right.
You know, like a dog getting a snack. Or have them come in at break time, bring a pizza, you know what I mean? Then things are kind of, the ice is broken and that type of thing. Stay, we'll have a break for 15 minutes, then stay the next 15 minutes. But like I said, I'm a newbie at this, so I don't know. But I personally can say that I absolutely love my boss. And he will come in and sit down every once in a while. And it gives me that childhood feeling like I'm in the principal's office. You know what I mean? I mean, I have to be a very confident person. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh, you know, I teach well and I teach the correct way, and my boss is great. But I'm always kind of thinking out of the corner of my eye, I wonder what he's thinking. You know what I mean?
Stacey,
a
I had
really good
experience with
point.
the chocolate. Ed
Yeah.
used to bring chocolate to our class, Sue, and the students would just perk up, and they were really excited to see him.
Definitely. And Stacy, I always feel a little bit nervous too when someone from the company comes in. I'm like, oh gosh, you know, am I doing this right? And of course they love everything about the classes, but I feel the same way too. It's not just because you're new at this. Great. Okay, so we're going to move on to another strategy for involving managers. And this is a strategy that Sue is familiar with because we did this for Rail Trail. Mid-session manager surveys, right? I highly recommend putting out a couple of surveys for the managers to get their feedback, to let them know you're thinking about them. Here's an example of a survey that we created for Rail Trail. First of all, make it short. These managers don't have time for a lot of stuff. Oh, let's make it bigger too. Okay. By the way, English for New Bostonians is like one of the coordinating organizations. So Rail Trail is really Framingham's project, but we help coordinate between Rail Trail and Framingham. So we just add little things like making surveys.
Is the Rail Trail an actual flatbread company?
Yeah, they make.
Okay.
Sue,
I
you
didn't
can
know if
tell
it was
us
just
more about
something,
them.
I didn't know if this was just a demo or something that came up, like you, when you sent out the paper, it was called the Delicioso
Oh, yeah, that
restaurant.
was.
No,
I
Okay.
this
wanted
is
to
real.
protect.
This is where I work. This is a real restaurant in Hudson.
Yeah, English for New Bostonians is kind of a coordinator. We partner with Rail Trail and Framingham to make this project come about. So that's why my name is up here instead of Sue's. But she is welcome. You guys are all welcome to make your own. Sue, you can totally make one of these as well. So it's very, very short. We're just getting an update.
Can I just say, this was the most amazing feedback. I absolutely loved getting this feedback because I know what's happening in class, but I don't know what's actually happening back on the workplace. And to read this and get such positive feedback that they were using English 30% more and things like that. Wow, that I can't even tell you how affirming that was. And it gave me new ideas. One of the questions was different things they wanted covered, which was great because they hadn't necessarily communicated all of those things with me. But I loved getting this survey so much. So thank you for that.
You're welcome, and I can't take total credit because this is something that my director, Ada Snow, always did at Bristol Community College. So I'm just bringing in ideas that I get from other people too. And let's see. Okay, so we have all of this, and is this the real survey? No, I don't have the real survey up, but we did get a lot of great feedback, like Sue mentioned, and I will send you all a copy of this survey so that you can take a look at it. And on our PowerPoint, I just wanted to let you know two things that I often see. One of these came from the Rail Trail survey, and one of them came from a survey with Rebel Restaurants. And these are things that the managers suggested that they would like us to be doing. Assign projects that need to be shared in the workplace. So this is kind of like the text that Taryn, was it Taryn or Kathleen? One of you mentioned the text with a prompt that had to be shared in the workplace, or give them homework to speak English during work with the manager. So these are something that managers are really looking for. So therefore, in our breakout session, we're going to think of ways that we can demonstrate the progress in class to managers and supervisors. We're going to work in groups of 2 or 3, and you'll get 20 minutes to do this. The objective is to design activities to meet the manager's request from the survey. assign projects that need to be shared in the workplace, or give them some kind of homework to speak during work with the manager. Managers want
Sarah,
to see. Uh-huh.
I'm not sure what that first one means. Assign projects that need to be shared in the workplace.
To be honest, I'm not 100% sure either.
Oh.
So
Okay.
I would love to get some ideas from all of you of what kind of projects we could do. Something
you
that's
think they
demonstrating
mean
what they're learning.
assign projects that could be shared in the workplace? You think that's what
Yeah,
is meant
that
there,
might
maybe?
that might be a great way of putting it, that could be shared. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, to be honest, this one has me kind of scratching my head too, going, okay, how am I going to do this? So yes, assign projects that could be shared. And you can answer these questions based on workplace content from your own experience, or using the grocery store manager interviews. I sent you that document, or any of those authentic documents that I sent in your email. There's procedure for allergies, and procedure for putting batteries together. There was a policy on cell phones. There was a beneficiary form. And there
I
was
didn't read
one
all
more.
those.
Yeah. So, or you can choose the grocery store manager interviews, which are much more generic. I don't want this to be a difficult activity. Sue, would you please read question number 1?
What in-class activities could you develop to demonstrate what they are learning to their supervisors?
And Beverly, please read question 2.
What out-of-class tasks could you assign for students to demonstrate what they are learning to their supervisors?
Okay, any questions about these? All right, I recommend you take a screenshot, because when you're in breakout rooms, you won't see this. Or a photo, screenshot or photo.
Okay.
All right, is everyone all set for their breakout groups? Okay, I'm going to stop sharing. Okay, I'm going to put you guys in breakout groups.
So I'd be happy to share my
Yeah.
screen while if you want to like jump around between.
Perfect. Well, I was going to put you in a room.
Oh, okay, great.
But
Okay.
you can share your screen while you're in the room,
While
right?
I'm in there. Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Unfortunately, oh, you have the newest version. Perfect. Perfect. Thank you so much, Luis.
Hmm.
And let's see. Okay, please go to your room. You're going to have about 15 minutes to work on these activities. 20 if you need it.
On one with a supervisor of Sue's class. And he has a good base of English skills, but I was explaining to Luis, his two superiors, he only interacts with in Spanish. He talks to the delivery drivers and things like that in English. So I was brainstorming a way to help him feel more comfortable interacting in English with the supervisors. So I'm very careful about during our sessions, I start with, here's what we're going to do today. And then a little later on, here's what we just did. Here's what we're going to do now. And really keeping the goals at the forefront and what the skills are that we're working on. So I was thinking of incorporating at the end for him to do a self-reflection. Here's what I did today, and telling me in English. And then hopefully that might be something I can encourage him to bring to the managers, because that's probably a typical thing. They say, oh, how was class? And instead of just saying good, he can have a, well, here's what I did. And he's already practiced with me as a starting point for that interaction in English and showing what he's doing.
Okay, very nice idea. I like the structure of it. And anyone else like to share how they're going to get the students to demonstrate what they've learned?
I can share. Okay, I'm going to share my screen here. Okay, we had two things. I used what we already had. This is 2 of the 4 conversations that the manager gave me at the rail trail. Since the manager is already involved, that end of it's already covered. He wrote it. And I have assigned it to the students to practice. We've worked on pronunciation and things like that. And then to assign, and this is the part I haven't done, but this brings it into showing in the actual workplace what they've learned, assigning particular terms that are found in the conversations, such as when is it due, or what time is it due, when will it be ready. We already have done a piece on the term heard, because that is restaurant code for I got the message. They say heard, and the students were all curious. What the heck is heard? What does this mean? We hear it, but we don't know what. And I was like, haha, you hear it. That's what it means. So we discussed what it was, but then the assignment being to go back into the workplace and use these in English and come back and report to me which ones you've used.
Okay, great. Again, I love the structure because it makes it easier for them when they have structure, more comfortable. And would anyone else like to share? Beverly and Kathleen, I know that you didn't have as much time, but did you come up with an idea?
Yeah. Want to unmute Beverly? So we were talking about the grocery store example, and with people who are working in produce. And so just about, the regular teaching, make sure they know all of the terminology, the names of fruits and vegetables, and maybe aisles and shelves and whatever those bins are called in the produce area. So it's actually a fairly difficult place to give directions for an English speaker. But so we thought about having students practice a conversation of like speaking to their supervisor, like I finished pricing the cantaloupe. What do you want me to do next? Whether based on, I don't know how their work goes there, and we'd have to find that out. Or we'd have to let the supervisor know that the students are going to be doing this. So this like a way to demonstrate their skills. Or they would say, what was the other one we came up with, Beverly? The other way they could show this supervisor, they could like double check pricing or something. You're on mute still, Beverly.
I haven't screen shared this. Because you all can't see it, right?
It's okay if you don't want to screen share. You can also just tell us.
All right.
That's better for you.
All right. Well, I can probably screen share. Here it is. I just am still fairly slow at doing this stuff.
Hey, you're screen sharing. Good job. You got that.
Yes, it takes, I set everything up before my class and then I go through and I'm able to screen share, but when I have to do it on the fly, I'm not so fast. Okay, so did you say the in-class activities, Kathleen?
Yeah, some of them. I mean, there's a whole range of things we talked
Yeah.
about. But yeah, I didn't talk about the map or,
Yeah,
sort of that activity.
we thought we could teach the names of fruit and vegetables and where they're located. We could get a map of the store and have the students stick pictures of the produce on the map. And then teach how to answer customers' questions about a certain type of fruits and vegetables. So then the out of class, tell the supervisor you finished the job, and see if they want you to do something else. Or say, I'm going to stock the cauliflower. Is this the correct price? So, and let the supervisor know how the students will be checking the price. No, the students will be checking the prices with them, so they're not irritated by being interrupted.
Right.
Nice.
And also I find that kind of that double checking is a good
Mhm.
workplace skill that oftentimes learners are really afraid to. They think it's going to show that they don't know something rather than, it being some, sort of an expectation here that you
Yeah.
double check.
The textbook I use for all of my beginning classes, it's called Conversations for Work. I'll be posting on the website. It has a whole chapter that's devoted to basically how to double check, how to ask your manager if you don't understand the job. Because you're right, that's difficult. And I just want to add that I love the tactile idea of having them place pictures all over the map. I think that's such a great idea. Okay, so I will finish up. Beverly, could you stop sharing?
Yes.
And I will finish up by saying that the Massachusetts Workplace Literacy Consortium has some more recommendations. It says these are opportunities for students to demonstrate what they've learned. And then it says, with the permission of the student, you can make videos of the conversations that they're doing in class, with permission, of course, or you can have them make posters, and those posters can be put in common areas like the, like the break room. Of course, with permission, but I really like the idea of making videos because that's a very easy way nowadays with our smartphones to share with the managers, hey, look what they're learning. And maybe the managers will then go and say, I just saw a video of you doing this. I know you can say this. And maybe it'll get them to speak. Oftentimes I have the problem of managers not speaking in English to the students, and maybe this will encourage them to use some of that language. All right, so moving on to the next activity, and by the way, Luis is going to have to leave us relatively soon for another meeting, so at some point he's just going to pop off. So
Okay.
Thank you so much for the time that you're here.
Thank you.
And thank you for your phone number.
Yes, thank you so much. I'll log off
Okay.
in a few minutes. It was nice meeting you all. Thank you.
Hi, Lise.
All right, the last thing we're going to talk about for meeting company needs is teaching company documents. Something that we always get from these companies is, I need the employees to understand these documents. It might be the menus in the restaurant. It could be safety policy documents. It might be instructional documents, especially in manufacturing places, of the steps to do something. And a lot of times, this is a really important concept to these companies. However, many workplace documents do not lend themselves easily to classroom use. Many of these workplace documents our students will not be able to even read, even after we finish the lesson. So we have to find a way to convey the information and make sure they can use the document, even if they don't understand every single word in the English document. Okay, so we're going to do another breakout session. On the email to you, the first email, I included 5 real company documents. And I would like you and your partner to choose one of those authentic documents. And it's not about teaching, how do I say? It's not a lesson that incorporates just the vocabulary of the document. This is a lesson teaching them the document, teaching them how to use the document. What's the main point of this document? Does that make sense? Okay.
Yeah.
So you need to teach the material or main ideas in the authentic document. I want you to create a lesson plan. It doesn't have to be detailed. The example that we got from Beverly and Kathleen, that little outline they created, you know, that's the type of detail I'm looking for. Very, very minimalistic. But the description of the activities in this case is how you would teach the company document, or the main ideas and concepts that they need to understand when they're using this document. So please take a screenshot or a photo with your phone so that you have these directions. Oh no, Beverly, I'm sorry. Let me share my screen again. I think you were, go ahead, Beverly. I think I took it away before you got it.
Okay.
Okay, do you guys have any questions on the directions? We probably won't have time to share our answers. It'll probably take you a full 20 minutes to work on this. We're going to stop at 11:25. And if you're not finished, don't worry. We still have next week's lesson to work on it. It's not homework. We'll just continue what we need to do next week.
Okay, I have a
Okay.
question.
Yeah.
You sent out 5 different documents, and we have how many groups?
Oh, just choose one. I gave you guys lots of choices. We're only going to
Oh, I
have
mean, I
3
didn't,
groups.
I don't know how to go back to emails and stuff like that. So.
Oh, I was giving you options so that you could choose an industry or something that appealed to you.
I only printed one, so, okay.
Oh, then you and your partner can use that one.
It's a difficult one.
Oh, which one did you choose?
View paycheck, because I had trouble with it at Hannaford's, and I live in New Hampshire, so we have less
Yeah.
taxes taken out. And when I started working in Massachusetts, I was like, what are all these symbols? I mean,
Right.
what they're taking out of my paycheck, I have no idea. So this lesson could almost
Okay.
be split in 2, because there's like how to access, and then there's descriptions of what they are.
So
So
would anyone like to work with Stacy on the paycheck? Okay, Kathleen and Stacy, you guys can be in a group together. And then I'll put Taryn, Sue, and Beverly in the other group, all three together. And you guys can choose a document. Sound good?
All right.
Okay, great. Let me go ahead and make those. And yeah, go ahead, work on this until 11:25. You don't have to finish. This is a complicated activity. I'm just moving people around. Why isn't this working? Oh, Stacy is moved to room 1. Beverly is moved to room 2. Taryn is moved to room 2. Hi, welcome back.
Leaving, what did you mean, Beverly? I'm sorry, we were in the middle of a conversation.
I thought Taryn said you were almost done.
Oh, the restaurant, the year, the
Oh.
semester, what have you, is almost done.
Okay. All right.
Not leaving voluntarily. Mm-mm.
Uh,
Yeah, like time flies so fast when you're teaching WorkplaceESOL. Don't you feel like there's just never
well,
enough time
my
to
church
teach
program's
everything?
almost done. I think I only have 2 more weeks.
All right, so to make sure
We don't run
finish
in the
up.
summer.
Oh, yeah, that's very typical. So I'm just going to finish up our PowerPoint. I apologize that I couldn't give you more time, but we will finish up next week. And if you're not going to be able to come next week, please make sure that your partners have a copy of whatever it was that you were working on. Okay, share the last couple slides of our presentation. Oops.
Okay, Kathleen, I'm going to share my email with you because you typed it up. I'm going to share my email in chat.
Thank you.
Okay, so I would like to remind everybody that we are available for individual assistance. Franklin is available to work with any administrators, project program managers to get a workplace program started. And I'm available to help anyone out with curriculum and lesson planning. And these are times I've set aside to help people next week. But you can also contact me and I'll arrange another time. And even if you just have like something you want to teach and you'd like to bounce some ideas off of me, you know, feel free to contact me. I'm here for you guys. And what's next? I'm going to put a recording of the video and a copy of this PowerPoint, plus all the resources, onto our website. And you're going to receive a link to the website and a very, very brief survey. And in the survey, I would really appreciate any suggestions for next week's workshop. And you'll also have the opportunity to tell me if May 27th or June 3rd works better for part 2 of the digital literacy workshop. And just to remind you, wait a second, how come that didn't link? It linked before. I swear, this linked last time I tried it, right there. Oh, anyhow. One more, no. One more time. Well, I'm recording myself messing up. So I think what I'll do is I will just send you guys the link. See, it says right there, that's the link. I don't know why it's not going to it, but I'll send you the link to the website and you'll be able to see everything that's available.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thanks so much for joining and I hope to see you next week.
Excellent.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah.
Okay.
Thank you
Can I
very
just
much.
Thank you,
I just
Sarah.
shared the document, Stacy. I hope you got it. All right.
I put my email in the chat.
Yeah, I just
Did you
shared it
get
with you.
DCG Riddle Farinola? Oh, awesome. Okay.
Okay.
Beautiful. Thank you
everyone.
for your help, everybody. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
And I got the
Bye.
email from you, Taryn, too.